Okay, so first, as you can see, this is the RAM watch, and we're tracking a bunch of different RAM addresses. One of which is the RAM address for the RNG value, which is currently at a value of 91. I'm tracking this in a 1 byte display and in a 2 byte display right now. I'm currently just paying attention to the 1 byte value because it's more obvious for me what's going on then, at least at the moment. And my goal here is to do RNG manipulation up to the end of World 3. And from there on, I will do a different RNG manipulation to finish the game, basically. But I want this RNG manipulation to last as long as possible and optimally till the end of World 3. I recently found this RNG manipulation, and I think that I can save a bunch of time if I can pull this off consistently with this strategy. I don't know the exact amount of time, but to my PB, it's probably like 20 seconds. To the world record, it's probably like 10, maybe a little bit less, I'm not entirely sure. Which is huge for this game, by the way. So, I want to showcase exactly how this works, so we're going to hard reset here now. So, when I do a hard reset, there is a animation that is like DK is destroying the brick wall. And as you can see during this animation, the RNG value changes a lot. So, and based on which value you start this with, you get a different rotation. So, a hard reset always gives you the same rotation, but I can also choose to do like a soft reset, and that would give me 1 out of 1 out of 16 rotations, which this is not something we're gonna be using for the beginning of the run, but it's important to know because it is relevant for the upcoming RNG manipulation. So basically, there is like a hard reset that I can do, which is just always gives me the same result basically. As you can see here, I always get a 15 here, and I always get the same rotation. And you can reliably get the first and last seed, because for the first seed you just have to hold A when you hard reset, and for the last seed you just have to wait until like all of the bricks have started falling down, and then you press A and then you have the last seed. So for the last seed, of course, if you do that in a run, then being knowledgeable enough to know exactly when you have reached the value 91 for the last seed is the way to go, right? Because like if you do a run, you probably don't have access to this knowledge, because this is, I would believe, against the rules to be able to like view the code as you run, but it doesn't matter for practice. So when I have a 90, so what you want to do ideally for last seed is, as soon as you get the 91, you wanna start. For first seed, it's very simple, it's the fastest thing that there is, just hold A. So, and I will be doing something here in 1-1. So we start off the run by basically doing a hard reset and basically doing a hard reset and pressing like holding A, as you can see here. So then we select the pre-existing file that I have here with on that stage 1-1. But we can also realistically go in any other stage. There might actually be a stage where it's faster and easier to set this up than 1-1. Because what we just have to do here now is we need to advance the RNG sequence by 3. And you can do that on all kinds of different stages. But one thing that I found very consistent, and it's very easy to do and it's not that slow, because we want to think of like the speed in which we set this up as well. While the time isn't running here yet, because you can do this before the run, this is something that you will do after every reset, so it should be fast. So as you can see, like the value is now 181. This is because the initial scream from Pauline, the girl that Donghyun kidnapped, is actually like when she screams, it changes the RNG value by a few. And the dog, or like the mouse that I have here, when you throw him and he turns back around, that changes the RNG value as well. And we need to do this 3 times, and then we have the desired RNG pattern that we want to have. So now this comes into play that I was saying earlier. So now I'm not gonna hard reset, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do a soft reset. If I would hard reset, I would just get the same sequence that is always there for a hard reset, and if I then go first seed, I get a value of 15. But if I soft reset here, there's some sort of calculation that happens based on the current RNG value that you have that will give you a different RNG value to start the run with. So I have like a spreadsheet that I've made where like the math of that is kind of written down to a certain extent. So you can basically look at that spreadsheet and you see you have a value of, let's say, 36. So if you soft reset, I'm gonna get this seed. And like I said earlier, there are 16, there are actually 30, no, I think, no, there are 16 different rotations and 32 reliable seeds that we can choose from that are not difficult to achieve. Because like first and last seed are trivial because I just have to wait for last seed, and for first seed I just have to hold A after the soft reset or hard reset, depending whether or not I want a hard or soft reset. So the soft reset, or like when you try to go in between, it's difficult because then you have to be in a specific frame window, and there are some RNG values that you can get that are like frame perfect, and then there are some where you get the same RNG value like 2 or 3 times in a row in the sequence, and then they become like a 3-framer. And there's one in a specific sequence, I don't know which rotation it is, where there are like 5 frame window, which is something that I'm probably still gonna look at if this 5-frame window, that RNG value that I get from there from the start, if that has like a better RNG manipulation from the beginning to like the end of World 3. But for now, this is what I have come up with, and this is close to a perfect World 0 to World 3 um, with the RNG. So there's likely going to always be some bad aspects about the RNG manipulation, as far as I can tell, because like RNG manipulation usually involves, you know, slowing down or like speeding up, at least in Donkey Kong 94, which um, you're not gonna just be able to go as fast as possible at all times without not ever slowing down to align the RNG value in a specific way to get the outcome that you want. So a lot of high-end leveling, high-end speedrunning of this game is figuring out a good RNG route and considering whether or not it actually makes sense to go for a more difficult strategy that saves a little bit of time. Usually what's best is to go with a easier strategy that's slower but makes the RNG better, because you usually save more time through the RNG than yet you save from a minor optimization in a stage, because a stage is very like a stage is like a stage usually ends like in 10 to a maximum of a minute, so there's not that much optimization. So all of mine optimizations are usually like 0.5 seconds. 1 second is already a lot, so and RNG usually is much more than that. So as you can see, I have the value of 18 right now, and I'm gonna do a soft reset here now. And this, by going first seed, will give me a value of 2. So what we did before we started the run, this is the pre-run RNG setup, is we hard reset it. We selected the first seed, which yielded in a value of 15. Then we selected 1-1. We wanted we wanted the rotation to advance 3 times, so we threw the mouse enemy. I actually wanted to probably advance like 6 times, but I am not counting the initial scream of Pauline. So realistically, or like, what you have to do is you only have to do like advance it personally 3 times by throwing a dog enemy, and whenever he lands again on the ground, it changes once. And once you've done that, you soft reset, select first seed again, and then you start off with a value of 2. So the reason that I'm explaining this in such detail is that it helps me convey my thoughts on the matter better, and it makes me understand this myself better as well. And on top of it, I think it's just cool to share this strategy that I recently came up with you guys. And it's very important for me to say this, but I'm not a programming genius or an expert in this field when it comes to programming related things like RAM addresses, RAM values, 1 byte, 2 bytes, or all of that. You know, I'm very much an amateur when it comes to all of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I myself, you know, don't understand because I've never really been so involved with it. Then I've started to do it to my hobby of speedrunning, so I'm learning a lot still. And there might even be like, especially when it is related to like more the things that happens like behind the scenes with the programming and shit, and how everything works together. You know, you can probably listen to someone else than me on the matter, because I don't feel like I'm really that educated on it, and I don't wanna spread misinformation. But when it comes to this type of stuff, I think that it's inevitability or inevitable that occasionally you will say something, you know, that's not 100% accurate, or you could have, you know, said this in a more condensed, or like, you know, in a more compact way and with more detail. So I want to make sure that this is clear. You know, I know a lot of things about Donkey Kong 94, and this is what this is mostly relating to. So once we have done the pre-run setup, it's not over yet. So my plan here is to go through the RNG route one more time to explain this all to you and for myself, and then I will try to do this without looking at the RAM watch. Because like what happens also with RNG manipulation, for the ones that don't know, is usually you don't have access to this type of information that is on the top right, because usually that's prohibited by the community to ensure fair play, especially with people that are on console. So you have to tell oftentimes whether or not did I get this RNG or not, and you often do this through memorization. So if I, for example, in the tutorial, which is before World 1, which is often sometimes related to as World 0, as you can see with 0-1, it says on that file as well. That's where you know, this RNG manipulation often fails, because you need to do 0-2 very quickly. But if I don't get 0-2, the latest point that I will know that I didn't get it is 0-4, but I can already tell 0-3. But looking at it at 0-3 is usually, you know, results in time loss, because it distracts you too much from the strat that you have to pull off. So I prefer to just not pay attention to like what the different moving things are doing on that stage, because based on different RNG, enemies oftentimes do different things. So I can know whether or not I got the right RNG based off of that. And that I do through memorization by knowing exactly, okay, if I have this value, the enemies are going to do X or Y or Z. Um, and um, while I was designing, or like, not designing, but I basically discovered this particular RNG route. Um, so I didn't design anything, but I discovered it, and the things that I was looking out for was consistency. You know, I didn't want there to be a lot of things that um, make it super inconsistent. You know, I wanted to have consistent results. I wanted there to be leeway. So if I don't want it to have, you know, if I mess something up, I would have liked that there is still a chance for me to get the RNG that I want. I obviously looked for the maximum amount of time saved and the least amount of time lost due to RNG manipulation. And yeah, that's basically it. I think we're just gonna get it started here. And I will be telling you guys a little bit about the RNG value as we go on. So I'm deleting this file. So there's a lot of different things by the way that change the RNG value. So I will be using save states here for this, just because I will be going over this route first before I actually do a run of this and practice it. So I'm going to minimize my OBS here real quick. So there's a lot of leeway here, so I can do this stage a lot slower than what I've just done and still get the value of 17. Because the thing that changes RNG on this stage is like how far like the barrel like progresses, like in his animation or in its animation, and there is a lot of leeway for this. So this stage isn't a worry for a high-level speedrunner. Obviously, this is a very advanced RNG route, which requires you to do a lot of things optimally, and a lot of things that I consider consistent for me might not be consistent for you at all, because I've been playing this game for over 10 years at this point, or like 8 years, I guess. And, you know, I've learned a lot of things. So don't get discouraged if you feel like you cannot pull this off. This is like anything. If you like can't pull this off, you know, there's like some things that you need to work on. It's like any high level strategy basically. And I've made a spreadsheet where there's like a basic RNG route that everyone can uses, which doesn't require a lot of thought at all. And that is also like something that um, it's important to keep in mind. So I would recommend a new runner to go with the basic route instead. So here this is the first breakpoint, or like this is like a harder stage to get the RNG manipulation right, because if you just do it like a frame or like a few frames slower than what's optimal, it doesn't work. So we want to get the value of 105, and if you are too slow you get 176. That's where you can tell, like you see like these enemies. There are enemies like that on the upcoming stages, like 03 and 04. And there you can tell then if they go into specific direction, whether or not you got it or not. So here I'm going to so I didn't, so that would have been a reset. So this should have been it. As you can see, this was perfect. This is 105, but I can show you that by doing this a couple of times, I'm inevitably going to fail this. So first of all, I'm doing a small little trick here to have like somewhat of a head start, because you can buffer the input here. Which essentially means I press some buttons already in the cutscenes and they're already being registered. So I'm doing this very well right now. But you have to do this. This is actually kind of precise, so I can show you. So this is something I can explain as well. So I see I was around 12 frames slower. The reason I can tell that I was around 12 frames slower is because this is the in-game timer, which is currently has progressed to the value of 7, and each value is 4 frames. So this is also like how I can like in practice figure out like if X or Y is faster, because you just go based off your save state, and through that save state, you know, whether or not you got a good, like if you got a better version or not. Because like the way the in-game timer works in this game, it's important to understand. It doesn't reset after every stage. It just like in the next stage it starts at 7, and at 40 to 0, then's when the first in-game timer ticks down. Um, so if it's at 14, it progresses to 0, and then the in-game timer counts down. So the next stage, the first second, would only last like um, 8 times 4, so 32 frames. And it could even be a little bit less than that because I don't know how many frames this has already been gone through. So it could be that it can be anywhere in between 30 to 34 frames, which is probably like roughly like 0.533 seconds or something like that. And that's how long the first in-game second would take on the next stage. There's actually something more important to this as well, which I can go over later, but you would want to finish the stage with an in-game timer optimally not being as high as like 9 digits, because like every digit that you see, so the way that the in-game countdown counts down is that there's like different stages. They have all like different amount of set time to it, and that's usually based on the complexity of that stage. So in this stage, or like in these early stages, because they're so simple, you are given 100 in-game seconds to complete them. And as you can see, I complete them very fast. But let's say I would complete them in 8 seconds and sometimes 9 seconds. So I would, or like I would complete them sometimes like 10 seconds and sometimes 11 seconds. If the timer switches from 90 to 89, there's like 9 digits that has to count more, which is 9 times 4, which is 36, which is probably like 0.6 seconds or something like that, if I remember correctly. So you want to optimally avoid the in-game timer to go from the tenths to the ones, because the way it counts down, it counts first the digits, then the tenths, and then the hundreds. So if there are no tenths to count, if there are no ones to count, it will just count. So let's say the time is 150. When you finish the stage, it would count down 150, 140, 130, 120, 110, 100, then 0. And if you have like 149, it would count down 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 140, 130, and so on. As you can see, that's a lot longer. So you would want to make sure that you get avoid dropping from tens to ones, um, if that makes sense. But it cannot always be avoided, and waiting on it um, most of the time doesn't make sense. Usually, when you there are some edge cases where you have to play like in a specific way to capitalize on it, which will save time. But that's very specific. It's the same, like there are stages in this game where there is, when you finish a stage with a time of below 150, you know, Mario just leaves the door open behind him. But if Mario um, finishes a stage with a time of above 150, then he will shut the door to symbolize how fast he is. And there, this never really makes sense to wait on, because the shutting, like the leaving the door open animation, is faster than closing the door behind him. But due to the rule of like the in-game timer, uh, it would almost be a frame perfect trick, or like it would be a frame perfect trick to save time with that, and it would only save 1 frame. Um, and yeah, that's just not worth it. And there are no edge cases like that in all stages as of right now, where that is something that is anything that we need to have considered. But I went over a lot of other stuff in the game. There's a lot of things in any speedrun really, like the more like you develop the route of a speedrun, the more scientific it becomes and the more you have to understand the inner workings of the game. So back then for me this was just me playing a fun game and trying to optimize my stretch. But nowadays it basically becomes a spreadsheet simulator. But I'm trying to balance things out and try to um, have fun with this game because that's what I'm doing, you know. It would be pointless if I wouldn't enjoy myself. So, but as I said, we're gonna continue. So I'm going to reset this because I didn't get the right value that I needed. So this is 105. So a couple more frames I would have gotten 176, but that doesn't matter because like I got 150, 150, 105. So there's like if I do the stage very well, then I don't get the best thing. So I want to get the value of 224, but if I have like a test like 0.3, then I can get 25. And that is bad. That is run over. And the difference, so between a 25 and a 224, is just like by 4 frames or so. So you don't want that extra time save because it would mess up the whole RNG manipulation, which is worth much more. So, and like I said, based on these enemies, I can tell if I got the good RNG or not, but I don't pay attention to them because the strategy here is actually something that is easily like you can easily mess up. The first two stages are rather tame if you have practiced this game as much as I have, but this stage is still something that at least requires some attention. So I usually look at 0.4 because there it's very obvious when you did get the right RNG, right? And especially because here on this stage you can still mess it up by getting a too good of a 0.3 where you know, you would have to read it twice, the RNG of the enemies to know what RNG cycle that you've been in. Or like what RNG seed you're on. So that was close to a 25. So this was actually perfect because it was scratching a 25, but it wasn't giving me a 25. And here you wanna do this also, you have to kind of do this I actually need to test this out real quick, because I never really seen, I've not tested yet how much leeway there is for error on this stage. There seems to be quite some leeway on this stage. So you don't have to do this stage perfectly, you can mess this up. Because like I can show you what it means to do this stage somewhat perfectly. Actually, you do have to do it rather quick. I was messing up the RNG values in my head. You need to get a 220 here. So let me look at how much time do I have here. Yeah, you basically have to do this perfectly, like what I just did there. So this is like just like since this is a tutorial at the beginning of the run, it's acceptable that it's rather precise because like I get this very frequently. You know, this has always been a place that is a little bit of a reset place, just because the first 4 stages are actually quite challenging and are possible to easily mess up. But this, in all honesty, with enough practice, it wouldn't ever be like the thing that would make me cry, you know, about this game. So after every like 4 stages, all of your individual times of those stages, of those 4 stages, are getting added to a sum of, and per like 100, or like the leftover digits, you get like 1 up. So there you can actually also do an optimization, but it's too rare to ever occur, and you need to know it ahead of time for it to be a consideration. Because if you get like a 600 run, it can make sense to wait a little bit in a stage before to get a lower end game time, an individual time on that stage to get a lower total, so it counts one up less. But those are currently not anywhere in the run, and it can happen on accident if you mess up a strategy, but you cannot really plan ahead of it. If you mess up a strategy, you would have to do like rapid math for a possible maximum amount of 0.83 second time save, which can also just be, like in realistic, it can be a 1 frame, 2 frame, or 3 frame time save. So if that is something you can work with better. So this stage, it doesn't really matter like how you do this stage, as long as you don't throw any of the animals of the dogs. You can do this, like you can mess up the stage, like I've just messed it up. Like it doesn't matter at all. You always get a 146 as long as you just go to the key and go to the end. The same for this stage. You just finish the stage. So, and ideally, like I said earlier, when I when I started this showcase, is that there's a lot of things that went into consideration when I did this, when I discovered this route, or like what I looked out for in like the RNG manipulation. You know, some RNG manipulations didn't make the cut for different reasons. Some of them involve slowing down. So for example, you can change the RNG value here by being really fast so that you end the stage earlier, because sometimes, you know, I don't influence the fireballs on the right there. They're just moving, and the more they move, the more they change the RNG rotation, and the less they move, the less they change it. So, and if you complete the stage in the same frame window every time, then you get the same RNG. So sometimes you can slow down and then use that as RNG manipulation, but you optimally don't want to slow down. You optimally want to go as fast as possible and even have some room for potential optimization where you still can get the RNG seed or value that you desire. So for this stage, some stages, or like some RNG manips that I had before, would slow down on the stage, but here I can go as fast as possible within reason and still get the RNG value. Like I think if they do the stage like absolutely perfect, it might mess with my RNG manipulation, but that really just never happens. And like the faster I do it, generally speaking, the likelier it is that I get it. So, and this can be easily messed up because this is not an easy stage. This is probably one of the more challenging parts of the, or like of the RNG manipulation. So I got a 149 here now. So this both are really good. So as you can see, I got a value of 8 in the timer. So if I do this a little bit slower, so this might have already been too slow. Yeah, that was a lot too slow. It's like hard to do that artificially. So as you can see, like there was a gap of a maximum of 24 frames there, because 6 times 4, no, that's 24 frames. So there's like some window like that. It is in between that you have to get. So, but here, that was a stupid mistake that sometimes happens in the game. Well, it sometimes happens in this game. So as you can see, got a value of 149. So you might be wondering, like, why are we even RNG manipulating in the first place? Because, you know, so far there hasn't been anything where I had said, oh yeah, I need to get good RNG here now. So there was a minor thing on 1.1 that I didn't mention, which is if the dog enemy goes to the left or to the right, I don't know in which direction he has to face first, but essentially if you want to land inside of the door optimally, because if you get too close to the door, it pulls you in like a magnet. And this magnet is slowing down your horizontal movement speed, which is worse than if you just jump into it. On top of it, it can change the in-game timer to your advantage for what I was earlier saying about like manipulating the end stage timer in such a way where you get like more time saves because the game has to count less digits. So on 1-1, if the dog doesn't go in a specific direction, you cannot jump as cleanly into the door as possible, and that with this RNG manipulation is possible to get the perfect entry there, which saves 0.1 seconds. But I didn't mention it because it's very insignificant compared to the other reasons we use this RNG manipulation. Other than that, there has not been a single thing besides 0-4. 0-4, if the flame enemies are in the wrong spots, they, you know, the stage is not going to be able to complete in a reasonable fast time. So those are the two elements so far in the run that we manipulated for our liking. But here's the first bigger thing in the run, which is stage 1-4. Because like there's like a crazy strat that we're gonna do here, which involves doing 2 wall jumps. So I'm using a setup here that makes this more free. But you can see that on the ceiling when he jumps, he throws down like this shit. And some of them are based on your positioning. Maybe all of them are based on your positioning, but I'm not sure. And I don't think that all of them are. Some are based on your position, but some aren't, as far as I know. And if you have bad RNG on the stage, you can just get crushed by doing the fast red. So you want to know, okay, I'm safe going for the fast red. Because we're doing like a, so there's like in a lot of Mario games you can do wall jumps. So where you can have like a frame where you can jump off. This works in this game as well. And like with flagpole glitch, for example, in SMB1, there are setups to get this a lot more consistent, and this is something there's like a specific setup that makes this, as long as you execute it right, 100% consistent, besides some edge cases. So here is where I'm doing the so if I mess this up, this is solely on me most of the time. So so there I didn't react quickly enough. I got the frame to jump on, but I didn't react quickly enough. Same here. So it's like, it's not easy to do. So when I say it's 100% consistent, I mean theoretically there's like no, it's not going to like not work because I didn't account for a specific subpixel or something like that that I couldn't have known before without access to that knowledge through like RamWatch or something. But it's like any other trick at that point where it becomes just a matter of execution, and obviously it's not 100% consistent in terms of execution for me as a human being, because it you know, is very technical, and it can easily go wrong because there are a couple small frame renewals that you have to make, especially if you do it 2 times in a row. So here we want to get a 2:45. Which we got. If you are too slow, then you don't get that. But if you mess up that stage anyway, you would reset no matter what. So it's completely fine up until this point. So here the first scream doesn't actually, you know, change the RNG. This is an exception for stages after a boss battle. Usually they would change. So like this game has a lot of places with minor RNG inconveniences, and then they are places where, you know, it's more big, and obviously we need to, when we form or like discover like RNG manipulation, we need to try to figure out the most valuable time save versus time save that unfortunately we cannot capitalize on. Because I don't think it's possible to get literally all of them, because there are too many instances in which, you know, we have to get the right RNG, and it's just inevitable that at some point we have to sacrifice time, or like have to slow it down, at which point there's always something that we have to sacrifice. So doing this completely without a sacrifice, I don't think is reasonable. So there's like this example here. So there's a minor time slice that you can do on this stage. So if the mouse goes right here, or if the mouse goes right here, you can do a different strat that saves you some time, roughly like a second or 1.5, which we don't get unfortunately in this round, but this is still makes this really good strategy regardless, even though we didn't get this. This is just like a worthy sacrifice. And on top of it, there is an alternative strategy that is not as good as the one with the perfect RNG, but it's really cool like the other one, and it saves almost just as much time. But I'm not doing that in the run right now because it's rather challenging. I can showcase it though. She discovered it yesterday. So, and this was like, what I just did there was a wall jump that I don't really have that great of like that great of setup for. So there is like the same old issue of that you face with these kinds of jumps where you're hoping that you have the right sub-pixels and shit. So here, there's actually a neat trick that you can do with the key. This is a safe strat, so to say, where you get the item box. The item box, Mario gets like is stunned for like 1 second. And so this is actually something where I can really explain this. So Mario regains control after collecting an item box after 1.1 seconds. This excludes the time it takes you to move the bridge or the item to its place, like the bridge that I placed in the middle here. The bridge, doing the normal strat gets you 190, because when you jump into an item box, your time freezes. And this gives you, because it doesn't go from 190 to 189, it saves you 0.6 seconds. On top of it, you get a good door entry, which is another 0.1 seconds. But if it switches to 189, you lose that time because so many more digits have to be counted down. So what we're doing here, and this is what makes this alternative strategy a little bit shittier than you wouldn't originally think it would matter, is so the original, like the other strategy is you get the key, you go here and you throw this key in a specific way, because like if the key lands, as soon as the mouse like is close to it, it turns it around, and that's hard to get. And when that happens, so here I cannot, like I want to throw up the key. Here, as you can see, I want to throw up the key, but the guy is in the way and we need him to quickly get up on the top platform where the door is. So this is why we would want to have an Optimus go right in the beginning, because if he goes right in the beginning, he is not in our way at that point and we can just be very quick. But here we have to go, if we want to do this strat, to go for like an alternative method. And this was found yesterday by me. And as you can see, I'm not that good at it yet. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to turn him around with the key. And it is a little bit precise. And when I turn him around, I can use him for my purposes, to use him as a platform. So and you can also turn him around a little bit too efficiently. When that happens, it can make the second jump a lot harder. I don't know if it can make it sheer impossible. I don't know that. So I just want to showcase what happens. But because like the timer doesn't freeze, like it did with the item box, we don't get a 119 here on the stage. So this should still, like this definitely still, like doing this half-assed version of the fast strat with the proper RNG is still faster than the normal strategy with the item box, even though we lose time not getting the end stage timer bonus, so to say, because already the regaining control after collecting an item is more time lost even if you consider like the perfect door and turn to on top of it, you would save 0.4 seconds. But considering everything, you probably by doing this strategy, you would probably save like at least 0.6 to 1 second. And presumably the perfect method would probably save 1 second, and like I can see it roughly go up to like 1.5. If you can get a 190 with that method, which might be possible, you might be able to get 2 seconds, but I'm not currently knowledgeable enough to confirm whether or not that's true or not. And I'm struggling with this right now. I guess I can just save state here, because like I don't need to do this in the alternative way. So you can see this is kind of precise. Like I have not really looked at a setup for this yet. Like I said, I found this yesterday. So there we go. So here we get a 189 now, which is not a 119, and if you pay attention to the in-game timer, it counts down, like, it takes a while for it to count down. So here, what I do now, so everything went accordingly to plan with the RNG manipulation. Here there is some leeway, so you don't have to do this perfectly fast, and you can even, you can do mistakes here, because there's like a small optimization that you can do. As you can see, you can do like a mistake here. Like I made a mistake, but you still get the RNG that you want. And if you do it really fast, it's not going to like mess with your RNG manipulation either, which is also something I was looking out for, because this strategy saves like getting that barrel quickly gives you like 0.5 seconds or so time save, which is really nice. So here is where I have to soft reset again. So I can actually show this. So I've made the math. So I don't know what I get from, like if I soft reset and I, so remember when I said earlier, you soft reset and then through this soft reset there's some sort of calculation happen that gets you like 1 out of the first 16 seeds. So I will get 0 up to 15, and I don't know what happens right now with the soft reset. So here's where and this is not something that's really complex or something. It was very simple to figure out. So I'm gonna display capture here real quick. That's wrong. So this is my main monitor. So this is this is what I am looking at the moment when I do the runs. So when I go to my spreadsheet that I've created, I can then look at it, because I've earlier said something about this, but I never really showed it. So these are soft reset calculations. So here you can see them. So basically, if you have a 16, you get a 0. If you have a 17, you get a 1, and so far. And this goes on. So you can just go like this and then search for 246, and a 246 gives me like a 6 at the end. So I know now that I will get a 6 when I've soft reset. So here I save 6. So and if I had waited for the last seed, I would have gotten. So I can show this one more time. If I have waited for if I would have waited for the last seed, I would have gotten this one right here. No, this one right here. I believe. believe, yeah. Because I'm on this rotation basically right now, and there are 16 of them. And as you can see, like the things that are yellow are the things that they're easier to hit, because all of these are 1 frames. So if I wanted to get this, I would have to literally hit a 1 frame out of like roughly like 50 up to like 60, because some rotations have more RNG seeds than others. And here, this is basically a 5 in 60, where well, like not 5 in 60, but it's like easier to hit because it's 5 in a row. And yeah, there's that. So there's that basically. So yeah. So there are 834 starting seeds, which 32 are trivial to get. 802 are frame perfect, 2 framers are 20, 3 framers are 10, and 4 framers are 1, and 5 framers are 1. So that's how far I've been getting in deciphering this. So now that we continue, so what people did in the past a lot is they would hard reset after every stage, or like after every run. Like very back then, we wouldn't even hard reset because we didn't know that through a hard reset it's actually faster, because like even if there wasn't any RNG manipulation to begin with, if that didn't exist, let's say, we would want to at least soft reset or hard reset after we saved, because the world transition is a lot slower than soft or hard resetting. But if you don't hard reset or soft reset, it just carries on that current value that you have, plus the current timer, which can be beneficial to sometimes, but most of the time it isn't, and it can be routed in RNG manipulation to make it better, but it's something that you would want to avoid if you can find anything else, because it's a time loss, and you don't wanna you wanna minimize the time loss as much as you can. So then people hard reset it after every run, or like, I guess I always soft resetted it. So there was like always this discussion at the time where I wasn't understanding anything of this, where people would say, you know, I'm not RNG manipulating because I'm soft resetting. Hey Sibyl, how are you doing, man? I'm trying to explain my current RNG method, because I found a really good RNG manipulation. So I'm going over that at the moment. So what I was saying is that at the time people believed that I wasn't RNG manipulating, which I consciously wasn't, but it was working for me because I did the same thing every time, which yielded into similar results, giving me the illusion that I was RNG manipulating, which I kinda were, but I wasn't conscious really about what I was doing. And then there were other people that was always hard resetting, because then they always got the same results. So they were like, okay, I definitely do the right thing here, but but the true way of getting good RNG manipulation is combining everything into one. You know, like soft resets, and if you cannot, because like the good thing about soft resets is you can carry over like a value. With a hard reset, you always have that one set. You have either the first or the last seed, which is either 15 or 91. And here I start 2-1 with a 6 starting point, which gives me a specific world 2 if I go along the way. Why soft reset when you can hard reset? I can explain this. So when you hard reset, let me actually do a save state here. So when you hard reset, so imagine I just finished world 1 and I hard reset. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Then I get a 15. But I don't want a 15. As you can see, the RNG value is 15. I want a 6 for a perfect world 2, let's say. So what happens, I finish world 1 with a specific RNG value, and what the game does after a soft reset, it does some sort of calculation which gives you a different, which puts you into a different seed rotation. So there are 16 different, so I can show this one more time. So this is what I've came up with. So there are different, so there is the 0 rotation, there's the 1 rotation, there's a 2 rotation, and this goes all the way up to 15. In total 16 because the 0 counts with it. So I will look at it up in a bit, Sybil. So when you hard reset, you always get this one right here. You always get this rotation. So if you always hard reset, you have a maximum of like 60, I believe, or 61 different RNG siege. Maybe in the future, Civil, but not right now because, like I said, I'm like trying to get this, explain this a little bit. So this is the rotation 15, which this is basically you only have 2 RNG values here that you can realistically get, which is a 15 and a 91, like the first and last seed. But we are currently, by doing the RNG manip in World 1 and the pre-run setup the way that we did, we start World 2 now with this RNG, with this rotation. And this allows us to get better RNG in World 2 than what we could ever accomplish with this. Because it's bound to happen that, you know, this works for a lot of worlds very good, but it's bound to happen that there are things within these other rotations that we can use that are actually better. So so the 6th one here, the 6th rotation is better. And the reason these are yellow is because there are 802 frame perfect seed values, 32 are trivial, which is the first and the last seed, 22 framers, 10 3 framers, 1 4 framers, and 5 1 framers. So, and here are the calculations for the soft resets. So if you see your RNG values, let's say you finish World 1 with a time of 246, then if you soft reset you get a 6. If you had finished it with a 215, you would have gotten a 7. The same if you soft reset with a 375, you would have gotten a 7 as well. And this way, through combining all of the different methods to mess with the RNG, you can actually create something that I would consider advanced RNG manipulation, which can ultimately lead to better results than just doing a simple hard reset, which modifies the RNG in a rather primitive way in comparison to what you can do with a more complex understanding of the mechanics within the game. I'm sorry that this is so small. I can try to make this bigger, because it's only, you know, I can move this like this. Like the only things that are relevant here are these two, the RNG value and time until next. So now that I am here with the 6 and starting off this World 2, I hope, let's see if, yeah, this should work, yeah. Okay, so there's also going to be a minor slowdown coming up here in 2.4, which is a downside of this route, but it is, in comparison to what we gain, extraordinarily like acceptable. Like it's completely fine. And it just forgot to mention this in the others world, because there's like a lot of things to this. In 1.8 there's barrel RNG, so on every Donkey Kong 94 fight or like end boss fight generally with some edge cases, there is like a Donkey Kong that throws 3 barrels, sometimes 4, that you need to hit him with. You never have to hit him 4 times, but sometimes they throw more. And he can throw them fast or slow. And for World 1, we got 3 fast barrels, and we get that all the time. So for World 0 and World 1, we basically got perfect RNG. Besides 1-7, which is very minor, it is insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And there you won't find probably a frame, an RNG manipulation where there is absolutely no sacrifices to make. There will always be some sacrifices that you will have to make for. Could we ultimately show the patterns of barrels for each Kramer RNG like they did for SMB? I have no idea. We might, but I'm not sure, cause I haven't found out the math behind what gets a good barrel and what's not, like what the algorithm behind it is. I have no idea, because like the algorithm that you saw has nothing to do with, you know, what barrel RNG we get. It has more something to do with like what uh, like value you get after a soft reset. So this is something that I've looked into it, but I didn't have enough expertise to really figure that out, and I haven't looked at it for too long either. So maybe in the future we can figure out something like that, but as of right now I have no idea. Um, so far we had basically perfect RNG with tasks like um, not perfect RNG. Like those sacrifices, uh, the things that weren't perfect, you can consider them something a task could probably like get rid of, but a human can't. Because I don't want to say it's completely impossible, because I do believe that the game has a lot of room to grow. There's a lot of things that I don't understand, but um, I just find it unreasonable to think that there is an RNG route in Donkey Kong where you don't ever have to just sacrifice something in terms of like, because usually it requires you to slow down or go fast to get a specific RNG value. So here, like the first 3 stages here, there's nothing about RNG that we need to worry about. We just need to complete them normally. Here we wanna jump, even though this can depend on what kind of 2-6 strategy you do. If you do 2-6 in a very specific way, where you get the end game timer to be 140, you might want to slow down here. Actually, I'm more into SMB blindfolded hard perk and want to get W before it becomes infeasible. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's something that is probably makes a lot of sense, especially if you want to get some publicity for the things that you do, because it seems like not something that is unrealistically challenging, but something that people will put their eyes on no matter what, because it's SMB. For me right now, school is starting very soon, like in 10 days. I'm just doing really whatever I feel like at the moment, trying to revert a little bit back from my goal-oriented self that always is ambitious to reach a specific goal, more to like my more childlike self where I was just like thinking about what's the next thing for me to do that's just fun. Trying to find out the balance there at the moment, cause I let it kind of like get out of control where I would do a lot of things that I wouldn't ultimately enjoy, and to that extent at least I turned things that I was really passionate about into something that I kind of despised at some point. So it's something that I am currently working on. So here to 4, this is something where I have to make a slowdown. So this is like the fastest way you can do this, or like the fastest reasonable way that you can do this as a human being. Like not to the exact frame specific, but more to like it gives you like it can be like a couple of frames apart every time. But this basically, if you do it like this, you can do it even quicker than that. You would get bad RNG, and you don't want that. So this slowdown that we're gonna make here is roughly like 0.5 seconds, but it's more than worth it for what we gain from this RNG manip. So this is the slowdown. We want to get a 116 here. So the slowdown is very simple, makes the stage... Wait, what? This was weird. Did I mess something up with the RNG manip? Okay, no I didn't. Yeah, so this was... So what you just saw there was a weird thing that sometimes happens to me. I think it has to do with, you know, the things that I don't control as precisely here, which are the crocodiles. So this is something, you know how in... I would compare this to something along the lines of Pokemon Yellow or like Pokemon in general Gen 1, where there's like a Gen 1 miss, where a 100% move has like a 1 in 255 chance to miss, regardless of it being a 100% move. I would kind of compare it as this, that sometimes this can just fail, but probably with more expertise you can avoid it. But this is not a failure of the RNG manip, this is just a failure of my current understanding of how the stage with RNG works. But this is something that very rarely happened to me. And, or very rarely happens to me, this is why I got caught off guard. This is something I would expect to happen in 1 out of 30 runs based on practice. Probably a little bit less. So this is giving me 160. And the way that I calculate the time, roughly, like how much time I lost through the slowdown, is, so as you can see, I got a 94 here with a value of 5. So the time until next timer tick is 5. And it goes up to 14 and then goes to 0. And each value is 4 frames. So 15 times 4 is 60, which is 60 seconds. So this is currently... has at least advanced to like 20, but it could already be at 23 because you don't see the first, like how far it has advanced in the frame specifically. So if I do the fast red, which I'm sometimes struggling to do. And this is like what is kind of so cool about this RNG specifically. It makes this like more consistent as well, because you actually have to go for an easier strategy, and it's actually the right move to do. And I like that, because this game is not only just about mine optimization. It's a lot about, it's like a lot of other speedruns. It's more about consistency than anything else. So this is 95 to 10. So there's 10 times, so this was actually a little bit more, like, because I did it very well in comparison. So it's like a range. So I would say 10 times 4 is 40, 2/3 of a second, which is like 0.66 seconds or something, which is, you know, the reason it was higher there, the 0.5, is because I did that stage a lot better than what I would usually do. But it could have been just, it's like a range that we move in. So what we want to do instead though, is we just want to do this. And we get 160, and the slowdown is gonna be worth it. Not particularly for this world, but it's gonna be worth it for the next world, because we get a perfect world 3, like literally perfect. Like there is nothing about the world 3 that is shit. At least not what I could spot, and given all of the strats that I know. So here the next stages, just execute them. There is a hidden, like there is a strategy on here that can result in like a second time save here. If you manipulate the in-game timer, or like if you manipulate the in-game timer in the right way, but that's really hard to do in the first place. So that's, if you don't do the insane strat there, you always want to jump into the door there. So in these stages, like I said, you just do them normally. As long as you don't really interact with any objects here that you're not supposed to. Like, I don't even think that in this stage there is anything that you could do to change the RNG value besides dying. You're good to go. You know, if you die, it messes up the RNG manipulations as well because you hear the Pauline scream again, which is something you don't wanna do. So here it's relevant again. It's relevant again because if you do this stage too slow, then it's gonna mess up the RNG manip. But it's rather easy. So yeah, that was it. Like if I do this, for example, if I do this was bad. This would give me bad RNG for World 3. So what I wanna do is this. So most of the RNG manip that we do is specifically for World 3. Cause like there's just minor RNG cases in World 1 and 2. You know, World 1 there's like door entries that can be better. It's like minor time saves there and that some fast strats work. Same with World 2. That you get like good barrels and shit. You know, and then in World 3 is where all the time save comes from the RNG manipulation. Because World 3 is 90% RNG and 10% execution. In terms of like the time that you save through what. Like you just save so much time on that world if you get the right amount of like the good RNG. So here, there you have to do that 2-9 you have to do somewhat quickly. Cannot just slack. This you just are not allowed to die on the stage, then you're good. For the RNG. So, and unfortunately on the last fight, I believe we get 2 or 3 slow barrels. But it seems worse than it is. On the surface, if you hear that 3 slow barrels out of 4, or like 2 out of 4, you know, why are we even manipulating RNG here in the first place? But I need to get that you, I need to, like the barrels are very minor time saves. Like it's legit. One fast barrel saves 0.3 seconds. So and we're talking here about 5-second time saves in World 3 for comparison. So here I get either 2 or 3, I'm not entirely sure. So this was a slow one. This was a slow one. This is a fast one. Yeah, this is 2 out of 4. I actually want to get the fast rate here. So it's actually better than I thought that it is. 2 out of 4 is actually decent. So we had 3 out of 3 fast barrels in World 1 and 2 out of 4 in 2 out of 4 in the thing. So I would say we're roughly missing like 2 seconds if we like we're not even fair by saying that we're missing like 2 seconds. It's just we like are sure that it's not more than that if you don't consider like task-like strategies through RNG with this current RNG route from 0 to World 4. I wonder if... let me actually do this one more time. I did it extraordinarily fast, so I'm not sure if that messed up anything. It shouldn't have though. No, it didn't. So and here, so I can... like, Civil, are you still here? Because then I can show you now in action with why you wanna soft reset sometimes if you didn't understand earlier. Are you still here, Civil? I can go over it one more time. I just imagine. So the reason that the soft resetting is good here. Okay, you're here. So do you see what my current RNG value is? It's so first of all I have save stated here. So when I press save, you have the choice to go the world transition. You can hard reset and you can soft reset. If I world transition, everything stays the same. I have a 39, value of my timer until next time tick is 1. So if I hard reset, we get the okay, the blue highlight makes okay. Maybe this is better. So the world transition makes it the same, like nothing changed with the RNG value. It stays as it is. You want to avoid this as much as you can, unless you get insane results doing this, because the world transition is a lot slower than the alternatives like hard reset or soft reset. In terms of just like the time it takes for you to, like not in terms of RNG. So when I hard reset, you know, I will get, I'm going to show display capture. So when I hard reset, I will always get this rotation. That means I will always get the value of 15 for first seed, and I will always get the value of 91. So I can show this here in action. So when I hard reset here, I have a 15. So I do it again, and now I get a 91. And you see like all of these changes that happen here, and that is the rotation that we're in. And I have written down the rotation right here. So these are all the different rotations that we can get. All of the different seeds that we can get in this rotation. So however, if you soft reset here, soft reset and hard reset are equally fast in terms of, you know, how fast the game boots up. There is some evidence that soft reset is better due to less lag, but this is not anything that I am comfortably sharing or saying that that is true. But if you have like 39, so I'm going to go like this, type in 39. So 39, so I know now if I soft reset, so if I soft reset I will get a 7. That's what I know for a fact. So now I go here and I soft reset and I will get a 7. And this is assuming of course that I do a first seed. If I do a last seed, I would get the last seed of the 7th rotation, which would be an 83, and I can show this as well. So I just leave it like this. It should be, I see, 83. So this is the last seed of the 7th rotation. So, and this is what allows us to get a very specific startup value to start up World 3, World 2 and World 1, and maybe even like other worlds along the way, because this is still something that's under development and probably always will be. You know, there's always room for innovation. So then when let me change the display capture again to this, and then this is what we all have waited for. This is where the big payout in terms of RNG save comes from. You know, all of the other things that we saw before were just minuscule things, you know? So first of all, you have the option, so you can do the fast strat, the fast normal strat that is not difficult to do, which is the thing that most speedrunners in Donkey Kong 94 know about. There's nothing that prevents you from doing the extremely fast version versus the normal fast version. Because there's no really anything that changes the RNG here through just like finishing the stage. As long as you don't die, everything is good. So but you can also go like the really fast way. So the really fast way would be doing something like this. So you can, based on like what you feel comfortable doing in a run, choose what you wanna do. So I'm actually gonna save state this because I don't have enough practice with that at the moment. And this is really difficult strat. So there's going to be something stupid again on the next stage, I believe. But that's also a sacrifice that's very worth it, and it is considered in the 2-second time loss that I was talking about because of the RNG manipulation that we do. So every slowdown that we do basically is considered within the 2 frames thing. I'm struggling with this a big time right now. There are like 4 or 3 elements to this trick that are challenging. Like this is something that I want to do in the run. But as you can see, I still need a lot of practice with this. Just want to go on and show the route now. Come on. My throws are a little bit garbage right now. Very specific input to do it optimally. Because you can overshoot and undershoot. Usually when you start out with this trick you undershoot, but once you get better you overshoot. There we go, I think I got it again. Might not look like it, but trust me, that was just progress that I've made in my head. There we go. Took a bit, but yeah, you can do this strat or the other strat, so which is good. So you cannot go for the backflip key grab thing, or you cannot go for the cool key pickup trick on this stage, unfortunately. So here you can get the second try, so you can mess this up once, and you still have a chance to get this. Like if you mess this up, and then you get it on a second try, you can still get the RNG manipulation. If you get it first try here like this, there's gonna be a minor slowdown. So you have to slow down here and like a little bit. There we go. And based on how good you do it, it determines like how much time you lose, but this was alright. So now we are basically set for RNG manipulation. So now we get good RNG here. This already saves like a couple of seconds getting that one. And the next big thing is the next stage. So he opens it up. I hold up right. Oh, I forgot how to do it for a second. Haven't practiced this stage that much yet. Oops. Okay, I remember. Okay, now I remember actually. This is not as hard as it looks, I just need to practice it. I just kind of like have not practiced this yet. Then we do this, and that's it. This gives us a really good time, and even if you're slightly slower, you still get a 90, which is what you want. This also saves seconds. And the big thing is still upcoming. So this stage we just do normal. Or like, as long as you don't die, this is fine. So you can go for really fast strats if you want to, like I'm doing this in this practice session here. Am I stupid? I'm just doing it normal now. But you can do it. So, as long as you don't die on this stage either, it's gonna be completely fine. And I believe it's even a high 127 if you do it really good. So, and yet now this is where the best thing about this manip comes in play. So I'm gonna save up here for if I make it like a wrong save state or something. So first thing that you do here, you release it immediately. Then you get this. Then you do this trick. This sometimes takes a second for me. I honestly doubt that with like pause buffering it's faster. But you can send me a link of it and I then look at it, I guess. It's hard to imagine right off the bat. Oh, come on. So and here's the magic. So it's really hard to get the good RNG on the next stage. Oh, okay. I was a little bit slower here. Okay. Like, why is that? Like, this still works. This still works, but I wanna know why that is. Let me look at it real quick. This is weird. So this is what threw me off from the start here. So if you pay attention, like it's not like it really matters, but like if you pay attention to this, like I remember that when I was testing this, that most of the time the guy would be at this spot right here already. But this has been like this. I've seen this before where this guy is on the right side, and I think that if he's on the right side, the RNG may advance faster. So I may have been too slow, but the idea is if you're really fast, you can get the good RNG. Like you can even like slow down and get the good RNG because there's 3 times of it in a row. Um, like this wouldn't be an issue in the run. You know, the best thing that you can do in this stage is to go as fast as possible within reason, like you not go as fast that you were like faster than the fastest, like the fastest RNG blip that we were planning for, because then you get like best RNG for barrels in the next stage. But if you like are a little bit slower, within reason, you still get good RNG for the next stage, but you don't get perfect barrels. So it's like if you're really fast here, you save the time that you save from being fast on that stage, and one faster barrel. But yeah, so I need to look into it why sometimes this RNG for the shovelot is different. Because I can't seem to wrap my head around, because I don't know what would have changed it. Like there's nothing in my head that just remotely makes sense to why it would have changed. So but yeah, you do this quick, which is a huge time save. So when that happens, the RNG manipulation is dead. But you can actually tumble, so like if you happen to tumble, like this, and then you still get it. Like sometimes this happens, is that you tumble, and then you still get it like this. That is this still how the RNG manipulation would work. So you do this as quickly as possible, then you do this, and then you do this. Yeah, for whatever reason, I'm a little bit slower, so than what I should be at that point. But that's fine, I still get good RNG, and this is like the point that I'm trying to make. Like, even if you don't do the stage perfect, if you just do this stage reasonably well, which I would expect someone on the high level to often do, then you get the biggest time save on 3.8. You may not get, if you're a little bit slower, you may not get perfect barrels on that stage. But if you get the if you are perfectly fast, then you get also like quick barrels on the next stage. So here you can see. So I will get good RNG here. So here you want to get the second, like the first 2 barrels can go fast, but the third barrel has to go slow. And it does. Because if it goes fast, you cannot catch him like that. So and at this point, this is where the RNG manipulation ends. Because if you... Like, it's possible to figure out some sort of like starting point where you could go on into World 4. But this is where, based on my testing, if you get either of the 3 values at 3.7, this is where it kind of breaks. Nah, I don't pray for no fast barrel. I know when no fast barrel. I know when it happens and when it doesn't at this point. So here's where I hard reset. So here, because like, soft resetting doesn't give me the values that I want. This is where I hard reset. So here's how, this is, okay, hard reset, and then I continue. Obviously after save. And then I have a specific setup for World 4 at that point. Like I said, there is still a lot of room to improve the RNG manip. Because, you know, there's just a lot of things to test and figure out and shit. It's honestly insane. So I definitely view this as something that over the years probably will be improved, and it's not something that just happens like very quickly, unless, you know, you don't want all of the time into it and you have like very good understanding of everything, and you develop it, and you know what I mean. But anyways, guys, this was it for today's stream. I made the showcase. I will try to practice this run 1 to World 4 tomorrow, or maybe later on, but off stream probably, this route. Cause like I predict that this probably, if done correctly, well, this is hard to say, but it probably saves like at least 5 seconds of a world record. Probably should save probably like 10. And like I will be uploading this to my YouTube as well. Like I can totally see this saving up to 10 seconds versus world record. But this could also be an overestimate of mine. It certainly saves like more than 15 seconds of my current PB, I would say. Maybe even more. Because my run back then was without RNG manipulation, or like proper at least. Anyways, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna eat something. I'm exhausted. See you then. Peace. You can see my balls. You know, see my balls rubbing in your face.